Priyanka Trivedi, and I work as a business analyst at Compliance Card, a digital collaborative compliance management platform for fashion brands. Today, we're joined with Björn Bengtsson, the Chief Product Officer at UNTUCKit, one of the fastest growing fashion e-commerce brands in the United States. In his role, Björn oversees the company's merchandising, design, technical design, production, and supply chain functions, driving the brand's product strategy from concept to customer. Beyond his leadership at UNTUCKit, Björn is also a part-time assistant professor in the fashion marketing program at Parsons School of Design, New York, and a regular contributor to the school's executive learning program. We are also joined by Priyanka Nema, founder and CEO of Compliance Card, who leads the company in building innovative compliance solutions for the fashion industry. Just to start off, Björn, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's been an exciting few months working together on the implementation of Compliance Card at UNTUCKit. And now that we've reached this stage, we want to take a moment to step back and look at the journey as a whole. Today's conversation is really about two things, as we talked about: why traceability and supplier compliance have become such a strategic priority for UNTUCKit, and why Compliance Card felt like the right solution to meet those needs. We'll also touch on some of the specific ways the platform has supported supplier onboarding, certification management, and cotton garment traceability, all with a focus on audit preparedness, ethical sourcing, and building a transparent, future-ready supply chain. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Anandita. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And thank you so much, Björn, for joining us today and this opportunity for a conversation with you. We are, I think, very excited about this, especially because now compliance, as we see, is becoming a bigger and a bigger part of supply chain, especially over the past decade. I think we are very eager to hear from your vantage point as a leader, Björn, in the fashion industry. We would love to hear that, especially now when retailers are held accountable for sustainability and responsible manufacturing. How do you see the industry responding to the shift and UNTUCKit, and what made you prioritize supplier compliance and traceability?
First of all, thank you for having me. Yes, traceability, of course, has become a very interesting topic and a topic with very high priority, I think, in fashion industry in general. And we have to take a few steps backwards in time to realize why. This really came about when UFLPA, the law, was published and put into effect. That law was primarily instituted to deal with cotton, and particularly cotton from Xinjiang province in China. But the law is a little bit wider than that, and it's not just about cotton from Xinjiang. Actually, the law stipulates that all importers of apparel into the United States have to have a transparent and traceable supply chain. So I think most people who work in the industry understands that, number one, right now, maybe cotton is the focus, but as soon as cotton becomes the situation becomes a little bit more stable for U.S. custom, they will quickly jump over to other fibers too and pursue this from a more general perspective. And of course, the background here is forced labor, slave labor, child labor, etc. So that was really the trigger to this traceability quest that most businesses in fashion is about. And I think it's just become more and more relevant as we move forward in time, and I think it's something that most people do. I forgot. I talked so much that I forgot the question here. What was the actual question here?
Björn, we were wanting to hear from you. How do you see the industry responding to this forced labor requirements and the traceability for, especially now we are focused on cotton, but in general over textiles?
Yeah, I think you have two options, right? You can do it internally and you can run it on an Excel spreadsheet. That's going to be extremely time consuming, and it means that you're going to have to allocate staff to do that and manage that spreadsheet to make sure all the information is uploaded or saved on your server or cloud or whatever. And also it also involves, of course, reminding suppliers about documents that are missing, etc. You also probably have to have some kind of translation program, so you can translate documents from maybe Mandarin or Vietnamese into English, right? So it's quite, and I know people who do this, but it's quite an undertaking. So at UNTUCKit, of course, we started immediately to look what is the better solution to this problem. Well, that is, of course, to automate this process a bit. So it actually is triggered when you issue a purchase order, and then it can move upstream to your different tiers, and the system in itself will archive all the paperwork and tag it appropriately, etc. So it can be connected to the particular PO, and it will also automatically send the reminders and let you know if vendors have not responded to your request, etc. So you can take action. So it's actually the automation that is the big time saver here, I would say, using an SAS versus doing it yourself on an Excel spreadsheet. So it's an investment that makes a lot of sense, I think, if you are trying to create a traceable supply chain.
Thank you, Björn. That really summed it up. Like I think your first part of the answer, where you say that Excel sheets and the manual ways of capturing information or documentation, the amount of document that you need to gather per PO is a humongous undertaking as it is, and automation would be probably the best answer for this. Would you say that manual processes or collaboration with suppliers who are so spread out across the globe for you, that was the biggest challenge?
Well, I think it is always a challenge. So the more supplier you have in your matrix, the more of a challenge it is. Now, UNTUCKit doesn't have a massive matrix of vendors, but on the other hand, we have also very lean infrastructure. So in that sense, we are not I don't have a big staff to handle matters such as traceability. I don't have a lot of resources for that. So the automation is really something that is really important, and I can't imagine really doing it with my current staff with only an Excel spreadsheet, because the time saving is so immense once you operate on a software such as Compliance Guard.
Perfect. So the biggest requirement I believe that you're addressing with Compliance Guard is the resource efficiency. You're automating the processes so you can manage and keep the staff very lean, the infrastructure very lean, and yet have all the compliance requirements met to your comfort and confidence.
That is correct. I mean, it's a matter also of storage, right? Where are these documentation? They need to be on a cloud platform so you can easily find them. You have to tag them. So if you want to trace a particular PO or particular POs, you need to make sure that all the documents are tagged correctly to that PO. So otherwise, you're going to have to do a lot of work. So there's also an issue of human errors here, that somebody tags the wrong document, etc., and then you're going to end up spending a lot of time finding that documentation. So when you have an automation, of course, the risk of human error goes down tremendously. The search process is much faster, etc., etc. So it's not just say it's more efficient; it's also much safer. And as a matter of fact, these type of information is really what U.S. Custom asks you to have on a server somewhere, and really be available for their review at any given time. So.
Yeah, I hear you, Björn. Like one part of the problem is gathering the documentation. Right documentation is probably another. And then retrieving the documentation, extracting it when you really need it quickly and efficiently is probably the biggest of them all. You have them all staggered, the documents with different people in different personal drives, etc. And we need it. It's a task to find it. So as you very rightly said, storing the documents securely, but also in an organized manner is a very big problem that you're addressing with Compliance Card here, especially as Compliance Card gathers the documents and then saves it in a structured format. You don't have to, your team doesn't have to do it as a manual extra step.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Björn, because you mentioned all of your challenges, all of the solutions that you wanted to see. You likely saw a lot of tech solutions in the market while you were going through these challenges. What made Compliance Card stand out for you to be a potential strategic partner for UNTUCKit?
Well, I mean, I usually buy all the SAS, and I haven't bought too much for UNTUCKit, but the same thing, I think I can compare that when I bought a PLM PDM system. I really went through all the companies just as I did with traceability programs, and I always look for the ones that has most flexibility, right? Because I know the bigger system is and the more industries it's sold, the more kind of rigid is the structure going to be of the system. And I really want to have the opportunity to build something and create something that had like a lot of flexibility and could kind of function just in the way we want it to function. And that also means I didn't need all of the extras around this that many companies offer. I just wanted this SAS to manage the process of the chain of custody of documentation. And I think Compliance Card, has a long experience in document management in general, and that's really what traceability is. It is, and the base of it is document management, right? So I felt that you guys had the right background, and you were willing to work together with us to set this up, and I thought that was extremely valuable. But besides that, you also proven that your software really works, and we can actually achieve the objectives that we set out to achieve, and that is, of course, also very important to us. And your service level, of course, has been brilliant, and your management of the project has been A+, and so we've been very happy so far how the project has been managed and the performance of the software.
Thank you so much, Björn, for the kind words. And as you rightly said, flexibility and configuration for you for UNTUCKit, and Compliance Card grows as your system goes, as your workflows grow up. And that is what we are focused on. And now coming to present, that Compliance Card is actually live at UNTUCKit. What kind of impact and benefits are you foreseeing in terms of audit preparedness, documentation, supplier management?
Well, I mean, I have somewhat different expectation depending on which vendors we talk to. I mean, we have started in the best end of the business, which is our largest vendors who have the capability and the understanding of US law, and also are properly set up to manage the documentation. And I think we will be very successful with those three vendors. And again, they represent a large part of what we do. So it's not only three large vendors, it's also a very large part of our total volume. So I feel that I'm confident that that's going to work out very well in the long run. The problem is probably when you deal with actors in the marketplace who might not have those capabilities because, one, they're too small, or number two, they are what we call converters, which means they buy fabric from many different places, and they might dye it or refinish it, etc. For them, traceability is extremely difficult, so there will be situations where we will run into roadblocks because basically the supplier will tell us, because also we don't deal with 100% pure fibers, right? So many people will have maybe 30% polyester, 50% cotton, and 20% nylon, or whatever it might be. So those type of blended fabrics, of course, it gets even more difficult to track, because the weaver have to kind of know where does the nylon come, where does the polyester come, and where did the cotton from. And that might be 1-year-old fabric, for all we know. So there are going to be situations where it's going to become a little bit complicated. But I think the payoff anyway is going to be huge. And I don't think US Custom and the UFLPA expects all importers to have 100% traceability in their organization. They're going to ask for reasonable traceability in your supply chain. So there will, of course, always be exceptions when you don't have certification, etc. But it's also a little bit, if you work with someone consistently, and they're very small, and they have problem with this, it's also a matter of educating them, right? So it is like, okay, but from now on, you really have to keep track of your components upstream, and you have to know where the polyester chips come from and the nylon chips come from, and you have to know where your cotton comes from, okay? So you have to do due diligence on your own suppliers, because we are doing due diligence on ours, and you have to continue upstream. So I think it's also a tool to really educate smaller factories and converters to have a reasonable critical view of your own supply chain and create a traceable supply chain.
Definitely the educational part that you talked about, and UNTUCKit being one of the first to take up this compliance process seriously, will be set forth as an example in the industry, I'm pretty sure. And I think ma'am has some questions.
I do. But I think, Björn, we'll take this up, and we'll try to collaborate with you on how we can, the smaller players, the smaller suppliers that you have, who probably are not equipped as of now, but educating them could help. We would also contemplate at our end how we can collaborate with you. In educating them, we can probably set those expectations up front that this is what you need. You do need to find out about your chips, and etc. etc. So we're happy to do that. But coming back to the question I had, Björn, was that in all our experience with the at the compliance carton, we have seen you in every single interaction very, very proactive about use and adoption of technology. You've been very open about it. You've actually encouraged automation to the whatever capability and whatever step of the workflow that we could adapt automation and bring automation to simplify the processes, and to work with the very lean infrastructure at UNTUCKit, and to reduce the resource costs, etc. And not only that, but also to ensure that the risk mitigation was minimized, and we were very proactive in identifying gaps. In the next phase, we are already working on the embedding of the advanced AI technology for translation of foreign language, for language documents, for translating them into English, and gathering information upfront for validation purpose. But my question is, Björn, do you anticipate a growing role of technology and automation across the industry for streamlining, structuring, and simplifying the supplier compliance and traceability in the fashion industry?
100% yes. I think maybe AI right now is a little bit overhyped, but maybe not overhyped, but it seems to be the holy grail. But I'm sure it's not going to work out to be the holy grail for everyone. But I definitely see the technology being very, very important in handling large amounts of data, and also finding connecting data points that would take us ages to do if we would do it on our own. So I do feel that if your data is clean and good, I think you can do a lot of different things with AI, and I'm really excited for what it's going to be able to do in supply chain in general. that's not only on the sourcing side, it's also on the creative side and on the development side. So I do see it as an augmentation for an end-to-end process in fashion that would greatly make the whole process more efficient, and also perhaps being able to expand the process and become even more comprehensive. So.
Thanks, Björn. I think that's a great validation, especially coming from industry leader like yourself, because as you know, at Compliance Thought, we are very committed towards fashion processes in fashion, especially around sustainability and traceability. So we are very upfront trying to help the teams or the industry to reduce time in follow-ups, but to gather the right documents. Compliance Card at our end, we are hoping that we will equip the UNTUCKit team with the AI capability for intelligent verification of supplier documents when the supplier is submitting them.
Yeah.
So the verification can happen at that point itself, and if there are gaps or misfits, for example, expiration dates or names of the certification, that can be red flagged to the team, to the UNTUCKit team at the very onset, instead of as somebody manually going through an assessment.
Yeah.
So that we are hoping will definitely help the UNTUCKit team. But looking for a moment beyond UNTUCKit, would you say that it would become essential for the industry to rely on digital tools in fashion, especially in the fashion apparel retail, given the growing importance of sustainability, ESG requirements, and ethical sources, the pressure that we're seeing, especially coming from the EU side and the CPP in US?
Yeah. No, I think it's not going to go away, right? On the contrary, it will increase. And even if the current administration maybe is not, their priority is not to drive a sustainability agenda, I think that is an oil tanker that is just going straight ahead. You can't really turn it around. It's just going. And I think many in the industry, they don't really care what the policy is and the administration is. They know it's the right thing to do, so they're going to continue doing it. And traceability is really a necessity from not only from a legal perspective with the UFLPA, it is also a condition for transparency, right? So most brands want to be transparent with their supply chains. Well, if you don't trace, there's no reason to be transparent because you have nothing to be transparent about. So you will only be able to declare your tier 1, tier 2, maybe suppliers. You will never get to tier 3 and tier 4. So if you're going to tell the consumer, you want to be transparent with the consumers and NGOs, etc., you really need to trace, right? So when we talk about transparency, traceability is really the catalyst or the generator of transparency. Without traceability, there's no reason to be transparent, So I think it's something that moves itself. And then, of course, you also have a moral imperative, right? So it's not like you want to work in a company that is used in factories or involved with forced labor or slave labor. You just don't want to work for an organization like that. So not only is it for the consumer and NGOs, it's for your own employees too, to make sure that what you do is morally and legally correct. So I think it's all the indicators are pointing towards this continuing to be an important strategy for most businesses.
That's a great point, Björn. Value system of an organization comes through with that, and the integrity of the ethical aspect along with the legal aspect. Legal is, of course, something that we are all bound to adhere to, but it's the moral and the ethical aspect that also comes across with how transparent an organization is. And I believe the consumers are more and more looking for it. They're more invested in that. Björn, what would your advice be for the leaders in the fashion industry who are probably still on the fence about investing in technology for the purpose of transparency and traceability?
Well, I think it's a little bit the same as sustainability, right? It's not a matter of a choice. You might move through in a pace a little bit different what type of business it is. But I think, first of all, to become traceable is going to take, at least 24 months, right? If not longer. To get 100% traceable, of course, if possible, it's going to take even longer. So it's not something that you can turn on a switch and you're traceable tomorrow, which means you have to get started with it. And a simple way is to get started like we did. Just take your 3 or 4 biggest vendors and make sure you have a business case for traceability, and then go from there and expand it. I don't think as a business leader, CEO, or any sustainability production manager could say that this is not important. It is important because, number one, there's a law for it. So right now you're not getting checked on that particular law, but the U.S. Border and Customs can check you at any given time and ask you for documentation. So I think there's no reason not to really, So I think, and I think that opinion is shared amongst many people in the industry. So
Björn, that is really solid advice. And I really appreciate how you showed a roadmap also just to get started for other leaders, other organizations in the fashion retail space. I had a question on the similar lines. If one of your peers, say another CPO or CEO in fashion retail, came up to you and asked, what is compliance cart in a nutshell? How would you describe it?
I would describe it as really a chain of custody SAS that helps you manage the flow and storage of documentation as you move upstream in your supply chain. And it's run by some very nice people. And it's fairly flexible. There's the opportunity for you to customize it to your particular needs. And if you're just looking for the key elements of traceability, no need to look further. Compliance Card has an excellent solution for you. To me, it's also, it's not to say that you don't have to do any work, because of course you have to do work. It's just really this chain of custody and the documentation that is important, and you're going to have to assist in pushing vendors yourself too. It's not like all the vendors automatically going to be super happy that they have to do more work. So it's on you too to push this process forward. And why would you go and find this big behemoth and think that that's going to solve all your problems? Not. It's going to, no matter how much you pay, you're going to have to be engaged yourself in the process in order to make sure it happens upstream. All the things, all the documentation ends up where you want it to end up. So I think Compliance Court is just a very neat solution for that. And also you do offer document management in other areas, so such as leases, insurance certification, tax filings, etc., etc. So it has many more benefits than just the traceability aspect. So
you have put it beautifully, and thank you for these words. But just so I have it on record, would you feel confident recommending Compliance Card to them, and what would make it worth their attention at that leadership level?
Anandita, I only work with Compliance Card, so of course you're my #1 recommendation.
Thank you so much.
I would always recommend it to anyone who's listening, anyone who wants a good traceability software. Compliance Card is, of course, an excellent company and an excellent software solution. So.
Thank you so much. This is going out on LinkedIn. I am typing this right now. This has been huge. And lastly, just to wrap up everything, we have finally gone live. It's been great. And when you look back, what's the one thing that you would call out as the most valuable takeaway or a differentiator working with the Compliance Card team on this whole implementation process?
Project management, #1. #2, tenacity. And following through on everything, driving the project forward, and being relentless in scheduling the meetings and making sure we stay updated. And always being proactive with us to drive the process forward. As you know, we're all busy. We have a lot of things to do. You always need people to push you along and say, hey, listen, we have to catch up we have to have a follow-up meeting on Monday to move forward. And you guys have been very good at keeping us on track and on schedule and all that, and in a very pleasant way, by the way. So I'm very grateful for that. So
Thank you, Björn. This was, from our side, also a very nice experience to work with. You've been great as a team, you, Mariana, the whole team. When we even came to the office, that was such a nice experience.
yes.
And ma'am, any other questions from your side?
No, I think that was very, very heartening and very encouraging. Björn, every interaction with you has been always very encouraging, very positive. We always walk away feeling more inspired and inspired to do better as a product, as a team, and from service point of view. So thank you so much. I think we just all feel very appreciative and very grateful for this opportunity.
And we are appreciative too. So that makes two happy parties here. So it's a great experience. So thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you soon again, right?
Thank you so much, Björn.
Thank you. Take care.